Hi there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles and welcome to your Power Hour. This is your time to put what's on your mind, on my mind, and we will put our heads and hearts together and we will find a way to go from stuck to happy as fuck in the shortest amount of time possible. So, sorry, I'm starting just a couple minutes late. Needed a little bit of sugar in my drink. Why? Because JOYLYN's lives matter too, okay? And what the point if it's not going to taste good? Oh, and chapstick, that's still happening. Okay. Okay, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about today's Power Hour as usual, so I'll try to bring the speed down to where you can understand it. It doesn't sound like a dolphin talking, okay? So, let's get into it because today is super exciting. We're talking red flags, green flags. Why? Because you're awesome. There's more to it than this. The red flags, green flags is actually closer to the end. But because we're moving towards mastery, and we're going to find out what that is and isn't. But how are we going to know when we've gotten there if we have no idea what we're looking for? Because when it comes to red flags, we're starting to recognize there's a lot of literature about it, and we have a lot of experience with looking for it, and actually with our trauma sensitization, looking for them, being hyper-vigilant. But we're also getting to the point where we're recognizing them, but perhaps not doing or knowing how to do as good of a job at not bringing them into our life, not having to deal with them at all. Knowing when something is a red flag, a yellow flag, or a green flag, and it's just something that we don't recognize. And what to do when you get them. So let me adjust this again so I'm more in the middle. There we go. Okay, so let's get into this. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about is about mastery. And I got this email from an organization that I work with. I get a lot of coaching and training from them, and I really like what they do. And somebody is finally talking about things in the language that I've been using as far as talking about the relationships between things. And specifically, this program is all about integrative body work. And so, but he's talking about mastering the relationship with your body instead of mastering your body. And it's interesting because when I was in a relationship with someone who was struggling with, I would say it's your relationship with alcohol. It's not the alcohol in and of itself. Alcohol in and of itself isn't bad. It's your relationship to it. It's the same for a lot of us with money, success, confidence even. And when we talk about mastering these things, emotions, boundaries, communication, we've sort of got this slave master mentality where there's some sort of authoritarian point of view, and we want to control it. And mastery means I've got a tight grip on it, it's controlled, that shit's dialed in, and I don't have to worry about it anymore because I'm on top. But that's not what mastery really is. That's domination. That's authoritarian. And that is a place you will be as you move up, because you're going to hit your hierarchy there and you will be top dog for a while, but then recognizing, why am I still feeling crunchy, not super happy, disconnected from myself? It's because that worldview, that dogma, that sort of perspective of looking at things is not fully conscious because there's a lot of separation and disconnection, and it puts something above something else and makes a hierarchical structure. It's kind of the patriarchal cycle structure that is crumbling right now. And we're learning it's connection, community. That's what's been missing, that we've been craving. Now, one is not better than the other. We actually need both, because there are places, organizations, systems that cannot function without some level of hierarchy, authority, and structure. And they aren't bad systems for having that. but it cannot be the end-all be-all of how we operate in our lives. We will end up staying as small, scared children, just really puffed up with a lot of weaponry so that we can try to protect our space on top. It's not working for us anymore because it takes a lot of energy. That's how most people have been doing boundaries. And that's why it's not working. And even with emotions, that's how we're trying to handle our emotions, is to be master of them. And this one's okay to feel and that one's not okay to feel. Or I know when I feel this, I do exactly this. I go to my formula book and I say, this is how to handle it. That shit isn't working, because what real mastery is fluidity. It's flexibility. It's a dance. There is movement. Because if anybody has emotions, and you do, and a lot of you guys are emotional authority waivers in human design, is how they talk about it, like myself, they move in waves. Emotions come in waves, and you'll know that when you're doing something, it'll just come up and you can't stop thinking about it or feeling it, and it's overwhelming, whether it's grief or sadness or even happiness and joy, and then it ebbs. And then you're like, where'd that go? I thought for sure I was going to have a bad day for the rest of my life, but all of a sudden it seems like I can enjoy life again. That's interesting. I was so happy and now I'm struggling with the same shit that I thought I just mastered. What happened? Mastery is understanding that it is a dance, for one, and then knowing what your part in that dance is. Because it isn't ever all up to you. Life is gonna throw curveballs because our souls are infinitely curious and we have soul contracts that were at play, and other people have the same going on and we can't see. It's not all written on their face what it is they're going for, came here to learn and bring to, and what magic we can collaborate and learn from each other. We don't have that. It's not always outrightly apparent and available. So it's learning how to work with that. And when it comes to emotions, it's learning how to have them, to receive them, to get the message that they have, but not be owned by them, to not believe all the stories that go with them. That's the big one, not reacting to all of it. And when it comes to boundaries, I have a presentation I'll be giving in a couple of weeks to a work organization, because this comes up. It's not just intimate relationships, it's all of our relationships, but that boundaries aren't borders. These aren't hard and fast rules of this is where I am and that might be where we start. Because when we're coming out of codependency, we might have to draw some hard lines for ourselves. But it's less about you can't cross this line. It's about I can't cross this line. Because I know if I cross this line, I've gone too far. And I know what happens. I'll enable, I'll people please, or I'll drink too much, or go into my old habit. So I know I got to stop here. Those boundaries are for you. But they will change over time. They will change with different people. Depending, and communication is the same. I know I am a direct communicator. Let's get to the point. Let's get to it quick. If you want to get me, that's how you're going to do it. Do not waste my time and too much preface about how we're arriving there. Now, at the same time, I also have, I'm an initiating, so I know how thought bubbles work, and here. You just help me connect the dots. That's all fine and dandy. But I know that there are some people who are not necessarily direct communicators. And so I have to make sure that when I'm very direct, that I'm also sending signals that I'm not angry, that they aren't wasting my time. So there will be smiles, depending on who it is, a softer tone of voice. I might make extra jokes or check in with them. Does that make sense to you? Are we on the same page here? To make sure that they're with me. It's learning our communication styles. Now, when we're trying to master communication, a lot of people do 5 love languages, or men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and take those as rules. And and I had a boss do this like back long time ago. I learned this, I forget but I learned your styles. And so I need to talk to you this way, I need to talk to you this way. And so we became formulas for her. And guess what? She wasn't very good at it, and it didn't actually work. Because it's not always just a plug-and-play system. It's getting this information practicing and playing with it, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And when you have the information, you play with it that way. It's kind of like, oh, that's what they were talking about. That makes more sense. Rather than I did it this way, why didn't it work? There is more playfulness with real movement towards mastery. Because real movement towards mastery, any master knows there's always more to learn. Okay, there is no end point until we cross over that end point. Okay, then we move back to the infinite. Everything's complete and whole and fine and dandy again. Okay, on this side, it's constant work, but that's the joy. That's the movement. That's the endless dance and rest, pause, flow, all of that. So that's what mastery really is. It is not domination or authority over something. So let's correct that and move on. Next point, boundaries is one of the big things that people are trying to master, and it's hard to master when your information is completely inaccurate. Like I said, boundaries are not borders. So it's not hard and fast lines necessarily about what is okay and not okay. It's really a constant invitation to connect with yourself. What am I available to? What am I unavailable to? And I'm going to highlight this with a story that just happened to me yesterday. And again, we always tend to think of boundaries in our intimate relationships or with our families, but it's everywhere. It's what are we available to? And it's starting to recognize that as we get healthier and our self-esteem goes up, we start to recognize how valuable our energy is and our attention. And so we start paying attention to what we're paying attention to. We start noticing where we're giving our information or our energy to. And because one of my tendencies is to spread myself too thin, because I can so easily fall in love with potential. And I can see the potential of a situation or a relationship and just go in. And oh my goodness, try so hard. And I can see how it can work out this way and that way. And then when I get in there and wonder how is it that I'm ending up depleted and why isn't it going quite this way? Well, because when I fall in love with potentials, I fall in love with the idealized version of them. Now, specifically, I am talking about yesterday. I was invited to an open gym because there is a volleyball club that is looking for a coach. Now, I have coached before. I love the game of volleyball. It is, I grew up playing it, watching it. It's how I've met people in every city that I've lived in. I can play. I know all the positions. You really don't want me as middle hitter because I'm not a big blocker. Because I don't know if you guys can tell from this chair, I'm only 5'3", okay? So I'm not a highly effective blocker. But I know where everybody's supposed to be. So I know I can coach. I've done it before. It's great. Okay. I tend to like slightly older teams that have more mastery with their physical bodies, like they know where they are in space, how to move them, and a faster rate of play. And a little bit more maturity because I tend to talk to people like I'm talking with you. And you guys know it comes quick, it's really fast, and there's a lot of it. And sometimes I have to watch things 2 or 3 times to really get all the stuff that was in there, okay? So giving that to an 8th grader, I have to be so much more mindful of how much I'm giving at once so I don't overload them. I can give a little bit more to 16-year-olds, okay? So we have that going, but it's the 13-year-olds that need a coach because the other team got a coach. So I have to look at how many times we're practicing, how many tournaments there are, drive times to the tournaments. I know in my heart of hearts I would coach for free because I just love the game and I would love to contribute to another person's love of the game in any way, shape, or form that I could. So let's face it, I would do it for free. But gas isn't free, and they don't give a shit how big my heart is and how much I love volleyball, okay? And I live in California, so the gas prices are really high. So I do have to look at finances some, okay? And then it's one of the things that we forget is our commitment level. And if I'm going to be coach, and especially with younger girls, I know I'm a good model for them. But it also takes extra energy because in that relationship, there is an agreement. I will be the regulated one. I will be the one that is in control. I will be the one who is the open space for you. I will be the one who is handling my emotions in a way that makes you feel safe to handle yours. And that's 100% of the time it's going to be that way. This is where boundaries and things get mixed up, is especially parents and children, and sometimes best friends, to where there will be some give and take. And sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it isn't. And that's why we end up being confused and not knowing how to do boundaries very well. But I'm very aware that if I'm coached, this is the setup that it is. And I also know, as far as where I am in my life, in my business, that I am still, even though I would like to think I'm 100% complete, there's still some trauma processing that I'll be doing for a while. Still some washout from the divorce and stuff, which is really minimal, but there are just some days where stuff comes up. It's actually usually more about logistical things that don't go the way that I want, is what kind of knocks me off balance. But also just knowing that I'm in a period where I need a little bit more me time to actually fully recoup so that I can be more present as a coach, whether it be volleyball for clients, whatever. So I'm driving home, and after seeing these girls, and they have a lot of talent, they're sweet. The coach before did a really good job. So they're developing well, and I know that when you get into coaching, there's always hiccups and just mild drama, but it is a very rewarding experience. But the payoff generally doesn't come till the end. I'm looking at the commitment level, and I know they cannot start practice until they have a coach. The previous coach can't recruit a couple of players she wants until she knows they've got a coach. They can't enter tournaments until they know they've got a coach. I know they're on a time crunch. I want them to be able to move forward because I love the game. I love what the club's trying to accomplish. I hate being the one who says, I can't make that possible for you. But I know from my previous marriage experience and other relationships and of a position in an organization that I just stepped out of, that when I make decisions because I don't want to disappoint people, I either have to work so freaking hard and it takes so much extra energy, but I'm the one that is disappointed as far as I don't feel full. Because I was weak with my boundaries, and so there was a lack of integrity, so I don't get to fill up and overflow. And that's really where we want to be operating from, is having integrity with ourselves so that we fill up and overflow. That's when everybody benefits. Rather than having a leak to be like, oh, I don't want somebody to be mad at me. Oh, I'm in love with the potential. I love what's possible here, so let me do that before I'm ready. These aren't easy decisions. But boundaries are really about integrity with yourself and being honest about what it is you really truly want, the outcome that you're really going for, the agenda that you actually have. Because a lot of us still, sometimes if we're really honest, we would rather be right than connected. And really consciousness that's underneath wants us to be connected more than it wants us to be right. But then knowing that this hierarchical structure isn't actually the truth of it, it doesn't always have to be right or wrong, live or die. How do we create win-wins? That these are possible, but they're only possible when we remain connected to ourselves. And so if you'll look, I believe it was October, so it might even be easier. You can go through the videos where I did a power hour on boundaries. And there's a blog, because it's talking about how boundaries are there to help us. They're a container for us to fill up. And mastering that is starting to get aware of where the leaks are, that the love is spilling out, where we're making other people more important to us, so that the red flags aren't necessarily always about that person's a jerk and they're stepping on me. It's, I've made myself available to be stepped on. I need to move. That's what mastery really is. It's movement. It's a dance. So now, oh my goodness, what a freaking perfect segue. JOYLYN. Pat myself on the back there. Going into red flags, green flags, okay? Because how are you going to know? There's so much attention and literature on red flags. This is a red flag. This is a red flag. And we need to know that. It's valuable information. But we can become hypervigilant, and with some trauma patterning brain sensitization that we've all got going on, we can take yellow flags and say that they're orange or red real easily. We can take very simple miscommunication and say, that's a red flag, this is over. Okay, how many of us have blown shit out of proportion? I don't know anyone. Do you? But we're not talking about green flags to also recognize those when they are present. Because as we're healing, we are going to start attracting more people who are generative, supportive, and authentically happy for our success and want to contribute to that. A lot of us aren't used to that because that's not the system that we grew up in. So we know how to make do and people please and try to convince people that what we're doing is legit and should be contributed to. But as we heal and get in touch and connected with ourselves and maintain our integrity, we actually start attracting people that say, hey, I like what you're doing. Let me support you there. And if we don't know what it is we're looking for and what that might look like, we might be like, you are after something. You've got a hidden agenda. And we maintain our habit of distrust, okay? So one of the things about green flags, and again, red and green flags, you always have to ask you what's true for you. Nothing that I say is a hard and fast rule for everyone, but I'm going to tell you some of how I can recognize a green flag or start to recognize them as green. It actually doesn't feel like anything. To where the first green flags I missed entirely because I thought something was missing. What was missing was that nagging fucking feeling of emotional intensity and that wanting to grasp. That now I can actually recognize that's the me falling in love with potential and wanting to cling on to something. Oh, that's what and getting that really emotional intense, because I had, this emotional pattern of really intense, generally kind of negative, because that was the family system that I grew up in. Emotional pain was normal. That's how I knew myself as. And so that's what I looked for to feel normal, so that when that first wasn't there and I was meeting people who were confident, like actually confident and not trying to prove something, that it just felt kind of like something was missing. Maybe even a little bit, I might at first classify them as boring, because that chemistry, that immediate magnetic attraction wasn't there. But it was really just, I wasn't recognizing my energy had shifted, theirs had shifted. There was actually more harmony and resonance, so that things were moving, let me do that, like together in sync, so that friction wasn't always there. Now, fear not, we're working with another human being. That friction and intersection's going to happen at some point. That's where the fun and the dance comes, okay? So don't worry, it's never going to be totally boring, but you're going to learn that it's more of a flow rather than it is a clash. But I was used to the clashing. So that the green flags now, and what I look for, is ease. I watch myself in interactions to see, how is my body? Am I contracted? Am I really closed off and tight? Like, how am I positioning myself? What is the word choice? Do I have to feel really censored? Am I speaking at a volume that's comfortable? Am I feeling like I need to apologize when I want to say something? Do I feel like I need a lot of preface? Like I really have to prove that I know what I'm talking about? Or am I okay to just jump in and share? And then when I do, how is that received? And those are some of the first ones. And then, how can I handle quiet? And some of this is actually, when I talk about emotional handling skills, it's learning how to handle pauses, spaces, breaks, silence. Because some of that might be a red flag, some of it because you or the other person can't have that. It also might just be a skill that needs to be learned. So again, this is where that mastery, that dance and flow and learning more is important. But green flags are going to be ease and space, not feeling a need to push or force or control or get to some place right now. It may not feel familiar at first because it is going to be new. It is going to be some skills that you haven't mastered yet. So there might be some awkwardness that you'll have to have grace in. And if you're not sure if it's a red flag or you just not being good at something, just ask. You just ask your own consciousness, is this awkwardness because I'm not exactly sure I'm just being new, or am I feeling really awkward because I'm actually uncomfortable and I want to get out of this situation? You throw it out there. It's almost like a prayer. Soon you'll get the information, okay? And if it really is a danger, you got to get out of here, your body's probably been throwing you signs for a couple of minutes, you know? We've had that too, so you know that. But green flags are what's light. Now, this especially comes in with arguments. Do you want to be right and you're going hard and you're trying to do that mic drop, nobody can get a word in edgewise, or is it light? And this one, lightness can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, and it just depends on how it comes to your body. Mine is a release of tension because I know I tend to be a bit of a stress ball and hold myself real tight, and I'm coming out of that. And there are things that you can do with your actual body to start helping your body remember how and recognize what relaxation actually feels like. That's in the 6-week Get Unstuck and Happy as Fuck Challenge, which you should totally dive into because it's amazing. But we learned those because it's skills. And there are actual practices you can do so that you can become familiar with this, so it doesn't all have to be in the moment, DIY, what the hell am I doing sort of situations, just to put that out there. But relaxation or release of tension, it's going to feel more expansive. And then when you're aware of potentials and possibilities, there's going to be enough space to where you're aware of all that goes with them instead of clinging to an idealized version and trying to make that true and ignoring all the rest of the stuff. So learning the skills that it takes to make this possible, how to communicate, how to do boundaries, how to relax your body, how to get to know your body in a way that I'm getting the information much faster and processing it much faster. Those are skills. Those are practices. And that's to a large extent what the programs are for. Happiness Brain Training is going to be training a lot with identity shifting and how to set a target and what it actually takes as far as repetition and practice. 6-week Get Unstuck Happy as Fuck Challenge is kind of your short course, your crash course in self-love and how to move from confidence, the actual tools and skills to get there. And there's built-in practice time. Then there's the 90-day relationship remodel, which is the one-on-one intensive with me where we're meeting weekly so that we can really dial in on an area that you want to concentrate on and get all this information tailored to you and in conversations to make it really, really accessible so that you get those ahas really fast. Just to put it out here too, I'm powerful as fuck. So the reason it's 90 days is because that's what it takes to make it sustainable. You will feel change probably from the first session, definitely by 3, but I hold you with me for 3 months so that you actually have what you need so you can do it on your own and these things can solidify, stabilize so that it's your new way of being for real. And then coming early fall, late summer, somewhere in there is the Love Yourselves, where building in even more of the naturopathic medicine body tools because we know that the issues are in the tissues too. And how to actually get them out so that we don't just remain head cases and come up with these extra flowery narratives and explanations for why we feel the way that we do, but learning how to feel things, how to process them, what nutrients and exercises it might take to work that through and integrate it so that you are on every level living at higher levels of love and abundance, okay? So these are the exciting opportunities that are available to you now. And there's always Power Hour every week where we get to talk about stuff that not everybody's talking about in a way that not many people are talking about, because this is a no fluff zone. I'm going to give it to you straight, like I just did, with some amazing fluid segues, okay? Like, I am just stoked with my performance today. And if you aren't, I am. So here's cheers to me. But I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. By the end of every Power Hour, I'm already looking forward to the next one. I look forward to hearing your comments. Put hashtag replay. If you're catching this on the replay, like this, share this. It's also on YouTube. So if you want to share outside of the group, there's YouTube where these go up after I give it to you. But here's where you can watch and join live. And ask your questions in the group. This is where I'm taking the questions from, is, hey, how do you deal with this? Hey, can you clarify on this? This is where it happens. So I love you guys so dearly. I can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow. No, next week, tomorrow. What am I saying? Oh, if only. All right, can't wait to talk to you next week. Thank you, Thomas, for all the hearts. I love seeing emojis, and I can't wait to talk to you next Wednesday. Have a great week. Mwah.